shoot the next one in my basement because they're going to try to quarantine us.
Yeah, quarantine
here in Minnesota, which I don't really understand.
Well, I really wanted to do this because I took off all my battle rattle that I had on for the last 2 weeks so I could do this video and hear everybody. So
I know I took off my gas mask. Otherwise, I'd be talking like this the whole time. People couldn't hear me. So that's what I had to do. So,
yeah.
How many of y'all out there are willing to be quarantined? I think we know the answer to that one, right?
Jeez.
Not many.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. But we're not going to get into that in today's video.
No, maybe not everybody on this.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
There's
I was working out in my basement this morning.
A lot of folks who've become raging socialists in the last 96 hours.
It's the worst part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
The worst part of this whole thing. How quickly people who sit there and go, rah, 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 we're opposed to a tyrannical government. We're opposed to all this stuff. And then, boom, wait a minute. You're going to send me $1,000? Woo-hoo! Never mind. I love the government. It's my friend.
It's $1,200, Ben. Get it right. Come on now.
Yeah, no.
You know what they settled on?
And a $500 per kid kicker.
Oh, $500 per kid, huh?
That's right.
Boy, it'd be good for people like me if I was a socialist. It'd be good.
Well, it doesn't really qualify as universal basic income because it's only a one-time $2 trillion stimulus package.
$2 trillion here, $2 trillion there. Pretty soon, this is going to be something we have to think about.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, if you want to host a watch party, we're doing that right now, getting some watch parties going. We're going to talk about the China virus. We're going to talk a lot, though, about this insane gun control bill that's being pushed right now, kind of in the background, as we're all working on, life, staying above ground, right? Staying out of a FEMA camp.
They've been saying that for a long time in Minnesota that they're coming for some sort of quarantine, some sort of lockdown. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen. Honestly, I've never seen so much misinformation about what's going on in the world as I have during this whole thing. So we keep hearing things, and I don't know.
No, but right here in Ohio, all you hear from Mike DeWine or Amy Acton or all the whole slew of puppets, you hear, don't trust anybody, just trust the government.
Just trust the government.
Trust the government. This is the only reliable source of information you can rely on. And instantly, all the memes I've ever seen online about Native Americans saying, yeah, trust the government is what they told us. And look how this worked out for us. They all flash back in my mind. And because when I was seeing them previously, apparently it meant something to me. There's a lot of gun owners who've been sharing memes for the last 5 years, but they threw the meaning of them right out the window as soon as we started getting into this situation. But
yeah,
I'm not going to talk about that.
Well, maybe it's just my perspective, but I just have what I consider to be a healthy distrust of government. That's what our founding fathers had. It's why they wrote, our system of government the way they did. It's why they laid out the restrictions for the government the way they did. And so, I know a lot of people are scared and concerned about this stuff, but my knee-jerk reaction is not to go, please, Governor Walz, tell us what to do. That's just not, that ain't me.
Sick.
Let's see.
Well, so why don't we? I'm here in Georgia, and so far our governor Brian Wemp-Kemp has yet to quarantine us all. But is anybody out there? Do we know anybody out there? Y'all watching? Are any of y'all in a state that's quarantined? California, Illinois.
Well, certainly we do. Everybody knows we've got a very active organization now in New York State, and Governor Cuomo has issued. He's being very careful how he phrases it. He's not calling it a quarantine. He's calling it New York on pause. That's the phrase. New York on pause. And
cute.
So in New York State, he has ordered every non-essential business closed, and there is an active enforcement of that in New York State. We certainly know that. So New York is under a virtual shutdown, begins tomorrow, much more aggressive. But Iowa, Iowa, our home state for Chris, Ben, and myself, is even more aggressive in some ways than freaking New York, because in Iowa, they are literally ending church services by government decree. And even in New York, the governor in New York issued a carve out for religious services. So not even the governor of New York wanted to screw with the church, but
Yeah.
in
Same for
Iowa,
that psycho.
Governor Reynolds went right for it.
Yeah, same for that psycho governor in Michigan. She said churches allowed, not churches don't have to abide by our, what is it, 50 person, per room type of thing. So
Do they say churches or mosques? I'm just asking. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
well, hey, everybody in Minnesota's asking. It's like, hold on here. Do we have to put a halt on Sharia or something in Minnesota for a while, or are the mosques still rocking and rolling up here?
yeah.
Valid question.
I mean, it's easy to it's, I don't know. It's easy to kind of laugh about this and mock these people, but we're seeing something in our lives that we only ever talked about when we watched Red Dawn when we were kids. Right. I mean, this was only ever a thing that you talked about with your buddies out of the shooting range. Like, can you imagine the government ever tried to lock down travel? And now, I don't know about you guys, but I think every one of our Facebook pages, we've seen dozens of photographs of all kinds of alarming photographs of military buildups and transportation vehicles. And I don't know who to trust. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is a known fact that there are complete lockdowns in San Francisco right now. You can't leave your house. If you try, they're going to come after you. The scanners in Des Moines last night had people calling the police, reporting crowds of 12 or 15 people at a restaurant.
That's crazy.
And the police were dispatched to go and bust it up. And what it was Americans trying to get food in a to-go order line at, I think it was Applebee's or something like that. So, we're watching something happen in front of our very eyes here that we only ever dreamed about.
I'll just say this. If you're one of those people who's going around just looking for an opportunity to call in Americans and say,
oh my God,
there's 10, 15 people in that park over there. There's people in that grocery store over there. If you're one of those people, you're human garbage. You're just human garbage. That's just my perspective. I mean, there's nothing worse than snitches. There's nothing worse than those people who are like, oh boy, maybe I can get an in with the government if I'm calling in everybody, calling in. There's just nothing worse than those people. Drives me up the wall.
I totally agree. Ohio and Pennsylvania, I mean, we're kind of right in the thick of it right now. Think of what's happening right now in Pennsylvania for everybody who's watching on PFA's page right now. The governor closes down all non-essential businesses, says you got to close up your shops. And we're not even talking about the economic ramifications of what's going on there. But when they do something like that, he's also invoking his emergency powers. But when he does that, he's closing down all of the gun shops in the state of Pennsylvania. So he's essentially nullifying the Second Amendment. Not to mention there are countless sheriffs across Ohio, across Pennsylvania, the two states I'm focusing on here, where they have ceased the issuance of CHLs. Okay, and neither of these states have constitutional carry, and so they're violating our Second Amendment freedoms wholesale right now. And you got to ask yourself the question: for what? In Ohio, he has activated the National Guard. They have set up these different stations to pass out food. And he says right now they're carrying food. They don't have guns. He's like, and if that changes, I will tell you. I'm like, oh my gosh, he said it right in his presser. So yeah, we are watching unprecedented level stuff happen right in front of our eyes.
Man, since I guess I'm the only Southerner on here, I used to read this book off and on for a few years, but and it's relevant to what we're talking about here. But during the War of Northern Aggression, okay, whatever the heck you want to call it, I know we've got some New Yorkers and other people on here today. But
well, I'm about 2 blocks away from General Sherman's house where he was born.
Oh, boy. Well, he probably instituted this order. But they say my hometown, the original hometown, Nashville, Tennessee, they say it was the most militarized city at the time, the most militarized city in the history of the United States. and y'all were talking earlier about people calling in, people walking together, whatever. But I used to read this book, and in the city of Nashville, you were not, during the war, you were not allowed to walk with two people together. So, I mean, say what you will about that war, but the reality is that it was a military government there, and they said you cannot do this or we'll bust you up. And I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that here, but I mean, you're on the precipice of, can't meet in groups of more than 10 people. I think people on this show have more than 10 kids or more than. Do any of y'all have 10 people in your house, guys? Yet? I guess Aaron doesn't yet, huh? Do you have the most kids, or do you, Chris? What, you got, 9?
I do. So we're at 9.
You're at
so
9. So you're still good, huh?
Yeah.
But
we're hearing all kinds of stuff now, though. I mean, we're hearing there are people that are messaging us saying they're getting their V packets, they're getting their travel papers, that they work for oil refineries, that they work in the medical industry, that they have their papers, please stuff being handed out to them in case. I
mean, we've seen probably
what this situation,
20 of those in the last 20 of those in the last couple of days.
Yes.
In all kinds of states. We've seen it in Wyoming. We've seen it in all the states.
Pennsylvania, Ohio, right, everywhere.
Is there official documents? It's not in the back of someone's napkin.
No.
There's official papers being issued by governmental or quasi-governmental entities giving people papers to pass checkpoints. It's all over. Wow. It's all over the place. We've seen this numerous times in all kinds of states.
Oh, yeah. It's the same thing here. I've seen all the stuff's all being passed out by hospitals and things in Minnesota. Minnesota state employees are getting these travel letters all lined up. Freedom.
Tom Baird in St. Charles, Missouri, said his county had a council meeting and slammed a bill through that if you have more than 10 people in a group, you get a criminal charge in St. Charles, Missouri.
It's wild, man.
Just moments ago on that. I tell you right now, if they try to put a situation in place where it's a criminal charge to travel or a civil fine to travel, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get myself one of those civil charges and mount that on the wall
just to
here
frame
at the
it.
office.
Just to frame it.
This is utter insanity.
I mean, the long and short of it is it, from my perspective here, there are worse things in life than illness. Our founding fathers certainly understood that. Like, when did we become a country that goes, oh my gosh, I can get sick, take all my rights, take all my freedom? I mean, these bills that are being passed, these powers that are being given to governors, this crap that's being done in Washington, this stuff doesn't go away when the Chinese virus floats out of America. 6 months from now, when this stuff is all gone, that power grab still exists, okay? Our destroyed economy still exists. The money taken from all of us, livelihoods destroyed. And look at that, St. Charles, a little a council meeting in St. Charles, Missouri, passed a bill, get you a criminal freaking charge. That's not going to disappear the moment the coronavirus is gone.
Right.
That stuff's there. Stuff's there. So when I'm sitting here going, this is the biggest power grab that America has ever seen in this length of time. And we don't get those freedoms back when this is over. So everybody who's out there going, lock yourself in your house, obey the quarantine, do whatever the governor says, do whatever these people say. They're the government. We can trust them. I mean, realize that they're taking decades worth, of incremental freedom taking, right? People go, boy, 20, 30 years ago, America didn't look like this. Well, pretty soon people are going to go, boy, 2 or 3 years ago, America didn't look like this. Because that's how much of power.
2 weeks ago.
That's how much power is being accumulated right now to state and federal local governments all across America. That is a freaking virus worth fighting against here.
Amen. Well, we're definitely getting some people in the comment section, I'm not surprised, who are pushing back, not very pleased that we're not all down for shelter in place and give all of our trust to the government. I mean, Chris, you and I, you've been discussing a lot more of this probably than anybody over the last couple of days, but I'm going to steal the one link that you sent me. I'm just going to just take a guess, people. Before I even say it, just take a guess how many people have died from this in the country. Just take a guess. I mean, if you're watching in Georgia, you might be tempted to say about the same as a bad Friday night death count with all the crime shootings
Chicago.
in Atlanta. You know, I mean, just take a guess. I'm not going to wait very long.
Well,
but I mean,
two weekends in Chicago can cover it. 2 weekends in Chicago.
We're talking about 200. I'm hitting refresh right now, Chris, to have the most recent number. We're talking about 285 people who have died in the entire country over this total. That's it.
But Aaron, you just come back to us in 3 weeks and you tell us then what that number looks like.
Exactly.
Okay?
And
Me too.
and and you know, the CDC's website, you can see it for yourself, is showing an estimated 23 to 59,000 people dead from the flu. So
which has gone up 1,000 people in the last 24 hours. That's the regular flu. It went from 22 to a minimum of 23,000 have died in this flu season. That we're currently in right here. And we're not even talking about the number of people that are very convinced that this thing has already been in America for months and months. There's a lot of people saying, this went through Indiana back in November and December of last year. I mean, heck, half of my family had something that resembles this chest congestion with fevers and stuff. It took us a month to get through it back in around the Christmas time. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. I mean, it was the same over here. if you were watching the Minnesota Gun Rights videos, anytime during like the month of January and like half of February, my voice wasn't right, all kinds of upper respiratory problems. And I started to tell my wife, I said, darling, I have no idea what this is. This is the strangest illness I've ever had. And it's gone. It's long gone. I'm sitting here going, boy, that sure looked like the coronavirus. Just,
I mean, let's just
Ben,
no, but go ahead, Chris.
Ben, how insensitive of you, though. I mean, you know, there are some people who might get this and die. But folks, the point here is that, and not to sound crass or inconsiderate or anything like that, but the influenza, I mean, the regular flu, it takes far more people historically every year, just in America alone, than what have died worldwide over this thing.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
I mean, a simple Google search, it's like how many people die in a car accident every day? 90 people a day. 33,000 people a year in America alone die from car accidents. You literally have a better chance of dying driving on the road right now. And those are just the simple facts. And people say, well, wait till a little bit later. It's like, look, China is already opening back up. China, this is all leaving China. They're opening up the amusement parks. They're opening up the businesses. Life is returning to normal. So in a country of 1.4 billion people, the grand global total of deaths from this is 10,000 globally. So what is that for China? Like 3,000-4,000 people in a country of 1.4 billion?
That's currently. I mean, this is ongoing.
It's passing. It's passing through. I'm just so upset about the freedoms that are being lost here. I'm so irate at watching the government.
Ben, the Constitution was a static document. It could not account for situations like we're in right now. Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, when he went into that apartment that evening and came out 3 days later, he had no idea what death or plagues or viruses or anything like that. He had no idea what that was all about. And so when he drafted the Constitution, he had no idea about those things. He was not equipping this country to deal with that kind of stuff, Ben. Right?
That's what everybody is saying on Facebook. That's what everybody's saying on Facebook.
Man, you know what's crazy? I was reading Cuomo, his order. I was just reading through some of these here, and so you've got. It's funny to compare these things. Not funny, but scary. You got Cuomo, you got Pritzker in Illinois, right? I just read theirs is till April 7th. Those people can't leave for 16 days. What? April 7th. You got California. But Cuomo, I was reading some of the things here. He has a quote. He says, outdoor recreation is a solitary recreational exercise. It's running. It's hiking. It's not playing basketball with 5 other people. These provisions will be enforced. These are not hints. This is not if you really want to be a great citizen. These are legal provisions. I mean, this sounds like the worst of the worst dictators you've ever seen in your life. I mean, these guys are just loving this stuff, man. Absolutely loving it. The
You should
power.
trust them, though. Patrick, in times like this, you should trust them that they are willing to put aside their agenda
Right.
and follow and pursue the good of man.
Right. Even though their ideology, right? Even though their ideology is based on, is like the precursor to freaking socialism, communism, whatever the hell you want to call it. The same ideology they studied as a kid is the same ideology that Xi and these guys over in China studied when they were kids too, right?
Yes.
Maureen says Cuomo is the New York virus. She's in New York State. Geo New York says FUAC, which is the most popular hashtag in New York State. In case you don't know, think about it. Pretty obvious.
Oh, wow.
I mean, but some people are pushing back still. And just want to mention this. What was it? Devin says it's very contagious, you moron. No shit, Sherlock. I probably shouldn't have said that. No kidding, Sherlock. Check this out, you fool. Look at this news. This is not AlexJones.com. This is this Bloomberg article from 3 days ago. Everybody's highlighting Italy. Their own national health authority came out with this article 2 days ago that Bloomberg covered. Look at the headline for yourself. Can you guys see that, Chris? Is it even visible?
Read it.
It's right here. 99% of those people who died from the China virus had other illnesses. And it goes through here. I'll just give one paragraph. It says right here, first of all, the average age of those who died in Italy is 79 and a half years of age. It said that the almost every single victim has previous pathology. Most of them have 3 or 4 significant health issues. And then of all the victims under 40, they've been males with serious existing ongoing medical conditions. So the short version, Devin, when you say we're a moron, is that you are a moron. This virus is killing old people. Guess what? Old people die every day of all kinds of illnesses, far more so from the flu. Control yourself, man. Your children's liberties are at stake.
Well, another thing I want to point out about that article is that it also says that because of the way they're reporting this stuff, they're really underestimating the real number of cases by only testing patients presenting symptoms. In other words, they think that there's far more people actually have the virus in Italy, but they're only testing a select portion, which means that their death rate is more than likely far closer to the worldwide global average. And so this pandemonium that people are stirring up about Italy, it's not actually a reflection of the reality, but I mean, you don't hear about that. One thing I'd like to point out, like in Ohio and in Pennsylvania right now, where you have the governors doing these press conferences, they're sitting here talking about these things in terms of a war that is going on, they're like in Ohio, they're likening it to Pearl Harbor, that we all have to come together like we do in times of war. But never do they have the intellectual honesty to sit there and compare it to something that people can relate to. Like, okay, we're talking about this as if it's a god awful, but then let's compare and contrast this to the regular flu virus. Let's compare and contrast this to tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is a very old disease, but yet in 2018, which is the last year that we have numbers, still 1.5 million people worldwide died from the Doc Holliday disease. But are we talking about that in Ohio? 2.2 people on average die per day from influenza. Are they standing there talking about this in perspective? And when they don't give this perspective, it leads you to question their motives. And then we go right back to motive. If motive is brought into this issue, well, then you're back to ideologies and worldviews. And that's when things start to look nefarious.
Mark, not to cut you off, to continue on your point, Chris, Mark in New York is saying, stop minimizing this. If we err on the side of safety, so what? And Michael says, I guess old people have no value, huh? Mark, Michael, you need to listen to what is being said here. Do you not understand? Do you not understand what's happening? I'm just going to change gears, I guess, for just a moment, guys. But do you not understand what's happening to your economy as you stand back here with a disease that's killed 283 people? The Dow has lost 35% of its value in 30 days, and most of that in the last week. They're talking about 20% unemployment rates by in the end of Q2. You're seeing people's retirement funds evaporate. You're seeing freedoms curtailed. They're talking about, you heard Patrick read off what's happening in New York State. They're going to actively enforce it if they see 3 people on a damn bike trail. Don't tell me about erring on the side of caution. Talk to me about erring on the side of our constitutional freedoms.
And so many small businesses in Pennsylvania and in Ohio and in all these different states are shuttering their doors for life.
Yes.
Their livelihoods are being destroyed in front of their eyes. In front of their eyes. These things matter. Yeah. I mean, yes, I prioritize the constitutional side of things, but as a father of 7 and a husband of 1, I think about these things in terms of economics as well. And it's destroying the Ohio and Pennsylvania economies. It's destroying them. Nationwide, it's destroying them. For 3 deaths in Ohio so far, 3 deaths in Ohio and 2 deaths in Pennsylvania. When the influenza has killed hundreds in both of these states since January 1st alone.
David says, put people back to work now.
Yes.
And don't get us wrong here. I mean, we've got elderly grandparents with health issues. I've got immediate family members who suffer from debilitating respiratory diseases and have for decades. A virus like this could be, potentially lethal to family members of mine. But so could all of these other illnesses as well. This Devin's still over here losing his mind about how we could put, his sick family member at risk. When there's a virus going through my grandparents' church, they stay home from church, and they go, you know what? There's a lot of sick people. We are elderly. We're going to stay away from the sick people. I mean, nobody's saying poo-poo. This isn't a dangerous thing, but it's what we're saying here is that it's not that much more dangerous than everything else.
Well, what I'm saying is that my grandfather, who is in his 80s, would not want to see his grandchildren live in a tyrannical socialist state using him as political cover.
Right.
And that's what's happening right now. They're using these limited number of cases that infect a limited percentage of the population to curtail the rights of everybody. And anybody who is too unable to see that is probably somebody who's in their 70s or 80s and is just doesn't care. I'm not sure how else to explain some of these responses from some of these people.
Because if we're willing to do it for this, I mean,
right?
Why wouldn't we do it for everything else? Like, if it's okay to totally annihilate our economy and wipe out the wealth of millions of Americans and watch the government take all of these freedoms, are we going to do it again next year?
Right.
Are we going to do it the year after? I mean, when a particularly bad flu comes through in 2021.
Here's what they can do next year. They can say the regular influenza is dwarfing the number of coronavirus deaths. Yeah. We have 23,000 people that have died. I mean, anytime they wanted to switch over to the regular influenza, they could absolutely put Americans into pure fear mode. Yeah, I mean, because the numbers from the regular flu dwarf this stuff. They could start talking about the problems with medical malpractice. There's medical malpractice in this country. 250,000 people die every year from medical malpractice. We have a crisis. Let's suspend our rights again.
Yeah. At what point is it not enough? It's all, life is a risk. If you get in your car and go for a drive, You could die in a car accident. People text and drive and get killed. More people get killed with claw hammers in America every single year than have died globally from this pandemic that's been on the globe for 2 or 3 or 4 months already in states in countries all across America.
More people are going to commit suicide when they watch what happens to their retirement funds over the next 2 years than are going to then have died so far from this coronavirus. I mean, it's just nuts. There's so many people in the comment section who are saying what you said, Chris or Ben. I had this. My family had this in October. My family had this in December. We didn't know what this was, but we already had this 2 months ago. I mean, people know this already. People have already had this. And one of the charts we didn't mention earlier, I'm just trying to, here it is, on Johns Hopkins website. This is the current numbers here in America, and it shows we have 21,759 active cases of this virus, 21,759. And it shows that 21,695 of them have mild conditions. So that is 100%. At 99 point something above, it rounds up to 100%. 100% of the American population that has this has mild conditions, and 64 people have serious or critical conditions. It's not even 1% on Johns Hopkins website.
This is breaking on Politico right now. As we speak, it's breaking on Politico that the DOJ is seeking Department of Justice, United States Department of Justice, is seeking new emergency powers amidst this coronavirus pandemic that would allow the department to petition a judge to indefinitely detain someone during an emergency. I mean, that is the complete and utter destruction of due process for anybody. I'm not just talking gun owners here now. If you don't believe in what's going on, if you're a voice of dissent, if you disagree with what the government is saying is the official truth, then you can be indefinitely detained underneath the new emergency powers that they're petitioning for. This is
when people are sick. Close the country down. Shut it down. Quarantine. Everybody stay in your house. Look, if you're sick, stay home. Like when I'm sick,
that's the whole point.
I stay home. Like if you're old and infirm, stay
already
home.
staying
That's what
home.
people do. They're already staying home. Like when I have the flu, when I have influenza, I don't go marching through Walmart. That's just normal. It's normal. That's what everybody does. It's like the people over here, but my mom is sick, but my girlfriend's sick. Have her stay home. Have her stay home. That's what my parents do. When my parents are sick, they stay home. When my grandparents are sick, they stay home. They stay away from people. That's what you do during sick times. Wash your hands. We're all washing our hands.
Yeah.
And they're totally annihilating our gun rights. And the last thing I'll say, Robert over here says, I'm so glad you 4 men are putting this virus in perspective. You're 100% right. And we could do what every other celebrity is doing out there. We could come on here and go, guys, it's a time of global coming together. Wash your hands, love your neighbors, stay home. We're going to get through this. Sing a little bit of communist music from, John Lennon and, and everybody go, oh, thank you for doing that. It's what everybody's doing. It's what, every single person I've seen online is doing that.
For 285 deaths. For 285, when 23,000 have already died this year from the flu.
Well,
Sherry says, do any of you personally know anyone who actually has this? That's the question everybody's been asking. No, Sherry, I don't.
They're talking about martial law, house quarantine for weeks in Minnesota, and there's not been a single solitary death in Minnesota. Not one.
Probably all the Iowans, not a single death in Iowa, not one. For all the people watching in Missouri, we've got a total of 3 people dead in the entire state. Wyoming, 0 dead in the entire state. And everybody's losing their minds.
And a total of 5 dead between Pennsylvania and Ohio, and 10 times, 100 times that amount have died collectively between those 2 states so far this year from the regular flu.
You
And-
don't throw away the Constitution because of a virus, Chris says in Iowa. Well said there, Chris. Chris Dorr, people are asking for the link regarding the detainment with the DOJ. I want to forward this. Greg is asking for that on IGO's page.
Go on Politico. It's on the right column. I looked it up, and we can
Okay, it's
post
on
it
Politico
too.
right now, Greg. So I'm
just
sure you
put it
can
in our
find it
thread,
right
guys.
there.
Wesley
Robert,
says it's common sense when you're sick. Talk about what we were saying.
Right.
You wash your hands, you stay home.
Yeah, one thing Ben was saying, and I've been reading, some of the other countries it's difficult to compare it all to, but if you read about South Korea, okay, number one, they did the testing first, but they had it quicker than we have. But we got a bigger country. We got 5 or 6 times the population. But they didn't shut everything down. What they did is the people that were identified as sick, they said, stay home. And they even had, and civil libertarians like all of us are here, for the most part, we should, they sent, from what I read, they would send alerts out. If a guy was sick at this spot, I'm here in Kennesaw, Georgia, they would say, okay, he's sick, maybe stay home, or he stays home, his family stays home. If you've had an interaction or you think you might be sick, stay home. But they didn't shut down, Kennesaw, they didn't shut down 25 miles away in Cartersville, you know what I'm saying, or some other city, the whole place. It's like, it's a classic government solution, and what we're going to talk about here in a minute is the gun control bill, but classic government solution is one size fits all, shut everybody down, and in this case, something that we've just simply never seen before is they're saying shut everything down and just freaking screw the entire economy.
well, to your point, Patrick, this big article in the New York Times from 2 days ago, yesterday, and this was from Dr. David Katz, who's the director of Yale University's Prevention Research Center. I'm not going to read this whole thing, of course, but he is making the point in this whole article that the coronavirus, the China virus, has a unique herd immunity tactic that should be employed, and that this is what we've seen happen in the Netherlands, other countries like that, and that if we don't let people intermingle, get this virus, move on past it like most people do, we're going to trickle this along. And he says this could take 6 months, a year, or more. And his whole point here on the New York Times is that we have got to allow people to get this illness and move on, because most people are totally fine, will not have any significant complications from this, and that what we're doing right now is prolonging this situation. And he concludes with basically saying what we've been saying, that we're going to have the cure is far worse than the disease. He said his one paragraph I'll read here. He says, I'm very concerned that the social, economic, and public health consequences of this total meltdown of our normal lives, with schools being closed, businesses being shuttered, gatherings being banned, will be long lasting and calamitous, graver than the direct toll of the virus itself. The Dow will bounce back, but many of our businesses never will.
Yeah. Many of the businesses that closed their doors are never going to open again. And so you can go, oh, but that's just a business. These are lives. Well, there are families now with no income.
Right.
There are people who had jobs who have none. People who go to the gym every day. There's a lot of people who are falling into great depressions over this, huge lasting depression. Over something like this, because they're being told to stay in their houses and they're not allowed to leave. I mean, there are major ramifications to this stuff. And why? When did we all start believing in the fake news media?
Yeah.
Because somebody put a little coronavirus ball up there with the spikies sticking off of it. Coronavirus, look at the scary coronavirus ball. And now all of a sudden it's all over the place. And now all of a sudden we're going, oh my God, the media said it. It's got to be true. There's a pandemic. Yeah. There's a problem. There's a huge problem. No, it's the news, guys. It's the news. Turn it off. Turn it off. If you're sick,
go to work.
Stay home. If you're healthy, go to work. If you're old and infirm, don't go around people because it's still flu season. That's how this stuff works. And instead, we've locked our entire country down. We're destroying our economy, and the government is taking rights away that we will never, ever get back. And
well, we know a friend, Chris and I, we have a friend in Des Moines He employs about 100 people, and
Yeah.
he's talking to us right now, or yesterday. 100 people he employs, and he's about to lay them all off because their primary, it's a janitorial company.
Restaurants.
They do commercial janitorial work, and it's restaurants and
Retail.
bars and gymnasiums, gyms. That's their primary customer base. 100 people he employs, he and his partner, and they're about, and he's fighting like a dog, trying to find a way to keep from having to, shut them all out of business. But he's got 100 people right in Des Moines, Iowa, who are not going to have a paycheck any longer, the way it sounds. And he's like, what am I supposed to do? He said, what am I supposed to do? Do I break this government order? Do I, but he can't, because the businesses themselves are closed down by government orders. So there's no business left. So,
and 50% of Americans don't have $400 or $500 at the end of every month to cover the cost of something like this. You take away their paycheck, and 50% of Americans don't even have the money to go out and buy the necessities to pay for something like this. I mean, we're doing this for these numbers, and you can sit there all you want and go, you people hate old people, and you guys hate the sick and infirm. It's like, no, we just understand that you can't just shut down the entire world because some people are sick or dying. You can't do that. Otherwise it's shut down for everything. Otherwise it's shut down for every illness. People die from pneumonia all the time. People are dying from influenza and from the flu and from all of these different things all the time in big numbers. I mean, that's life. It's just life. You cannot destroy an economy and siphon away our constitutional rights because some people are sick. It blows my mind.
David in New York, he picked up on me calling it the China, or we're all calling it the China virus. He says, "You said China virus, you racist bastard."
Well, yeah,
with a whole bunch of smiley faces behind it. I love
the
it.
Chinese swine flu, the Chinese MERS virus, the Chinese SARS virus, COVID-19, the Hong Kong flu, the Asian flu,
Kung flu.
In fact, I've got a friend who has been studying this stuff a lot for years, and says that most major pandemics in human history have originated in the East, and then spread west. So
that's what happens. You guys all seen that Facebook video
by
of
John
that
Cornyn?
guy going through the meat market in China, around Wuhan?
Yeah.
I mean, that will make you vomit when you see the kind of filth these people actually eat. So don't say we're racist. I'm just saying, when you eat snakes and bats and dead crap like that all the time, no wonder. Sherry says, I don't know. Didn't everyone learn how to wash their hands in kindergarten? Maybe that's a uniquely American thing, Sherry. I don't know. I mean, that's the whole point. These people live a different style of life than we do in this wonderful country. And like Seth says, there are at least 7 different strains of nasty illnesses that have come out of South China over the last couple of years. So you can call people like Seth or us or racist all you want to, but we have a beautiful, I talked to a friend of mine yesterday who does finance over in Nebraska. And he's like, we have a beautiful thing here in the history of the human experiment, this country, our work ethic, our economy, compound interest, morality, hard work, honesty, integrity, decent people. He said, we had a thing in this country that I think, that's what he was saying, that a generation from now, we're going to look back and say, oh my God, we had it and we let it go. And so you can say that we're racists for having a holier than, what? I come from Iowa. I'm sorry. If you expect me to apologize for feeling superior sitting in a Sac County Cattlemen's Club eating a 24-inch T-bone compared to some guy eating a dead damn bat in China, I'm sorry. I am better. Our diet is better. Our food is better. Our country is better. Our medicine is better. Our people have more morality. We have a different culture. And I'm not going to sit here and apologize for that.
That's what our forefathers built.
That's
it
why-
was
yeah, that's
it was
why they came
intentional.
here.
It was intentional. All of this was given to us by the generation that came before me, and the one that came before them, and the one that came before them, going back to our founding fathers. We're not going to apologize for living in the greatest country on earth. We're
Right.
going to celebrate it and rejoice in it and fight to keep it.
Yeah.
Because
If you guys
otherwise,
agree, give us a thumbs up.
otherwise,
That's how
100
that-
years from now, we're all eating bats. We're all eating bats and rats. You know, no, thank you. I'd rather protect my Constitution, protect the rights given to us in our founding documents, given to us by God and our founding fathers. And we're not going to apologize for it because this will pass. This will
Yes.
pass. And the
Yes.
doors will open and the sun will shine in. And we're going to have to look out into the world and think, what world do we have now? What happened when the doors were closed? What happened when the windows were shuttered? What happened when we all said, yes, government, whatever you say, government, we will give up our jobs, we will give up our companies, we'll give up our freedom, we'll give up our long-term rights. We're going to give it all up. What world are we going to step out into when this is over? A good world is worth dying for. A constitution is worth dying for. Our founding fathers died for it. They suffered. They had plagues. They had illnesses and viruses that wiped out tens and tens of millions of people all across the world, but they plowed forward to give us the greatest country on earth. And because somebody holds up a freaking news article that's got spiky balls sticking off of it right now saying, oh, and it just happened. The first person in Minnesota died of the coronavirus, somebody in their mid-80s, and now we're just going to lock it all down. Lock it all down. I'm sorry. It's just not worth the cost to our country, to our freedom, to our economy, to our Constitution, because our kids are going to look back and go, you gave all that up because people
For
were getting
what?
sick in 2020?
Yeah.
Some people were sick? And you gave all that power to the government? You lost your jobs. You tanked all these businesses for why now? Why now? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And we should not be believing fake news now or going, oh God, for what? For what? It's just, it blows my mind.
A
It
$2
blows
trillion
my mind.
we're
bailout coming.
because this is the truth of the matter. Like Chris Laidlaw just said, we can vote our way into this.
Yeah.
We can slide into this. We can fall asleep at the wheel into this socialist hellhole, but we're going to have to shoot our way out of it, just like our founding fathers did. And that is a cost none of us want to have to pay.
Well, clearly so many of these people are unwilling to do even the minimum and say, you know what? It's really sad that people get sick. It's really sad that people die. I have friends who are doctors, nurses. I got a good friend in Alabama who's a nutritionist in an old folks home. And they're saying the coronavirus is in the one right next door, you know, and we feel bad for them. They're doing everything they can do, but we cannot annihilate our country because of this. And that's what's happening. Our country is being annihilated. And people are going, well, got to hide out in the house, got to stick around the house. We don't want to get anybody sick. While we give away like the core, our core freedoms, the very thing that makes us free Americans, we give away because CNN is out there screaming about this stuff. I mean, I watched at the national press conference, was it yesterday, where these reporters are getting up there saying, sir, Mr. President, they're saying that there's probably a 3.5% death rate on here. You know, they're talking about 12 million dead Americans. You know, is that something that we're going to be, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's like, wait a minute. 12 million dead Americans? This has been all over the world. All over the world. And there are 10,000 dead people globally. But there's the media trying to get talking points so they can run around and tell everybody that we're going to lose 12 million Americans. You're out of your minds.
And
you are fake
news. And if this got 10 times worse than it is right now, if the death toll climbed 10 times what it is right now, we wouldn't even be half of the death toll from the swine flu. Don't smack me with those numbers, Chris. I hate it when you come in with facts.
Just as Americans,
how many of you
that we just don't go along with the narrative?
How many of you grew up with the phrase, is life so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery and avoiding a cold? Come on. This is the time. It's ridiculous that we're even having this conversation because only less than 300 people have died in America. But do those words mean nothing to the average American? This is a time to believe it.
Yeah. It's not going to go well if they try to mandatory quarantine Minnesota, where I live. It's not going to go well. But now one person has died. One person in Minnesota, a person in their mid to late 80s died from this virus. And on a normal day, 2,000 people in Minnesota are looking at unemployment, are contacting the state for unemployment checks, unemployment insurance. Now we have nearly 100,000 people. The previous record of people doing that was 18,000. Now we're at nearly 100,000 Minnesotans looking for unemployment insurance here.
I mean, you got more people being arrested. You have more Minnesotans being arrested at the airport, taking suitcases full of cash to Somalia and Iran than you have Minnesotans who are dying of the China virus. So,
I mean, 2 days ago, a Somalian immigrant gets in the car.
I saw it.
And plows into a bunch of people at a bus stop and runs people over.
On purpose?
On purpose, simply to prove to his friends that he could kill somebody.
Wow. Oh, I didn't see that. Was that Minnesota?
Oh, yeah. Just ran a bunch of people over, hit them with the car, just because.
Well, I saw that they had arrested a Minnesotan at the airport just the other day, or indicted him, one of the two. He was heading off to go train with ISIS or some crap like that.
That one too.
That happens every day in
Minnesota. I know. That's to say, more people get arrested going to fund terrorism in Iran than have died from the China virus in Minnesota.
I was reading this Wall Street Journal article for those of our friends in New York. This is crazy. The head of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers outlined plans for taking over as many as 10,000 hotel rooms, college dormitories, and other spaces in New York to provide medical services to accommodate the exponential increase of virus-related hospitalizations. 10,000.
Yep.
That's wild right there. That's a lot of members of the military have to be out and about, 10,000 hotel rooms. Good Lord.
Well, I mean, it would be, we're probably going to transition out of this portion of our show here today into another one, but I would be remiss if I did not bring up my favorite quote that I've been telling everybody right now. What did you think that meant when Ben Franklin said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety? So many people have shared that meme all over the world in the last couple of years as the threat of gun control gets bigger and bigger in this country. That this is the time when that mentality must break through the irrational fear that the media is trying to spin in each of our minds right now. And remember that, because I just don't think we can survive the cure for something like this. Anyway,
and just to be clear, a whole bunch of a growing number of economists, medical journals, doctors, all kinds of organizations are now saying that exact same thing, that this cure is way worse than the disease. So, well, I guess we'll wait and see, look back and see what happened here with a couple hundred people dead, and see what happened. And I'm just gonna, and just to be clear as well, like you said, Chris, even if that number jumps up by 10%, by 10 times the size or more still. We do not shred our Constitution because some governmental entity is demanding more power to deal with a crisis situation. That's not what our country was founded on. Never was.
I got a millennial latte sipping Doritos and Code Red, Mountain Dew, drinking loser over here says, if I see your ass walking around in groups after lockdown, you won't have to worry about me. You won't have to worry about the government. You'll have to worry about me.
What's his name?
Kevin Stewart is his name. Hey, you got a big shout out. Minnesota.
Big Kev.
Minnesota. Who do you think you're going to shoot? He says, I'm 37, blah, 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 and a franchise owner.
Kevin, I got one question for you.
Franchise.
How big a boy are you? How big a boy? I'm going to open up a can of whoop. Anyway.
Yeah. You're a loser, Kevin. You're a loser. So,
And the animating contest for freedom is not in you. You depart from us.
Yeah. Yeah. You're everything that's wrong. You're everything that's wrong. See, because either if you think that you should be quarantined, everybody would be quarantined. You would be quarantined. But see, you think that we should all stay home only when the government says we should all stay home. Not right now, only when the government says so. See, people like you who love taking all of your orders from government are horrible people who lack tremendous amounts of patriotism. You see, because there's a difference between a patriot and a statist. A patriot loves his country. A statist loves his government. You are a statist. You love your government more than you love your country, more than you love your people. And you are more than happy to give all of your freedoms away. Why? Because the government says that you have to give them up? No, thank you. No, thank you.
So crouch down and lick the hand that feeds you. May your chains rest heavily upon you, and may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. Go away.
There you go.
My people are ripping into him over here, though. There's some great people on here right now.
Yeah.
There's some great people.
So speaking of something I brought up earlier, those of us who don't live in a state with constitutional carry, here in the state of Georgia, they're not issuing even weapons licenses right now or renewals.
Yep. Welcome to Pennsylvania and Ohio.
Is that the same? Everybody on the show here today? Is it like that in Iowa and Minnesota?
Well, in Iowa, it's county by county right now.
Same in Ohio and Pennsylvania.
So,
yeah.
Of course, all of our friends in Missouri don't have that problem. They can do what they want and give the government the big one-fingered salute if they need permission. They don't with a constitutional carry state. Our friends in Wyoming, thanks to now State Senator Anthony Bouchard, also enjoy constitutional carry law. Anthony passed that bill single-handedly in Wyoming, clear back in 2011, led the charge on the momentum for this spreading across the country. Many people tried claiming credit for Anthony's success in passing constitutional carry law in Wyoming, but Anthony took care of business out there. So 16 states, right? 16 states that don't have to worry about getting government permission right now. So if you're in 1/3 of America, you're good to go. If you're behind the occupied zone, the chair is against the wall right now. So if you guys know what I'm talking about, someone give me a thumbs.
John has a long mustache.
John has a long mustache.
Oh, I got to read this. Here's a great comment. Jody says, "Who is the Minnesota guy? I love him." Thank you, Jody.
Ben, did you pay her 20 freaking bucks?
Yeah, Jody's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, she's gonna get a PayPal ding here in just a minute from Fiverr.
Oh man.
Well, we've had some folks join during the show, guys. I guess now would be a good time to talk about joining the American Firearms Coalition. You can join up at joinafc.org, joinafc.org. Hop on board today. All the memberships, I believe, come with a t-shirt membership decal, which are being shipped out every week across the country to the newest members of the American Firearms Coalition. We also have a petition up. And I think it's a good time to transition into this, guys. I don't know what y'all think, but maybe we'll post it down there in some of the comments. But I'll just kind of do a little bit of a lead on this. But there is a piece of legislation that was introduced by a Georgia Congressman, Hank Johnson.
Gun control legislation.
Gun control, bad stuff. And it's called the Gun Violence Prevention Community Safety Act. Kind of a draconian name that sounds, oh, wow, we can stop this or that. Of course, when you see gun violence prevention, that's always code term for...
Well, why don't they just pass the China Virus Containment Act and just like make the whole problem go away?
Exactly, make it all go away. But there's a lot of talk about it. We have a petition up for y'all down there. We just posted it on some of the pages.
This is a direct email. This is a direct email.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a direct email. So what we've provided for y'all is a direct email. So everybody has 2 senators and everybody has a congressman. So click on that link, and we're going to have a website up a little bit later, a different website that'll be easy to remember, guys. But click on the link, pass it around to your family and friends. Send your email directly to both of your U.S. senators here in Georgia. It's David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. Loeffler's in big time trouble. And then your congressman as well. So put in your information, pound it up to Capitol Hill in D.C. And Aaron, I don't know, do you have all the bullet points for this piece of legislation that's been introduced?
Oh yeah,
in Congress?
it's a doomsday end of the world, end of your gun rights.
That's what I want to put this in perspective for a moment here. While so many of you are sitting here going, lock yourselves in your house, obey the government. Don't you know this is the time to come together? This is a time of world peace. This is a time of national peace. While the whole world is shut down because of this so-called coronavirus, this Chinese virus, politicians in D.C. got no problem introducing legislation like what Aaron's talking about right here. They are taking full advantage of this calamity to totally strip you of your American freedoms, of your Second Amendment freedoms. So
the same thing is going on. The same thing can be said for a lot of these states right now. They're still in session. For example, like in New York right now, not a single member of the public is allowed in the Capitol in Albany. Nobody. And we worked a lot in Albany this session. Not a single person can be in the Capitol in Albany right now. Nobody can be in the Capitol. And so these guys are still there to pass legislation, but the people can't see it happening in real time. So it's the same thing happening right now in Washington, D.C. And this bill could be moving anytime. Certainly a live threat in the House at an absolute minimum, but introduced by Georgia's finest. I'm going to toss you under the bus there, Patrick.
Yeah.
Hank Johnson. This thing is pretty much the worst bill you can possibly imagine. Mandated licenses to buy all firearms of any kind going forward, via a national permitting process. So you need to get permission from the government to buy anything. And hang on one second.
And while you're looking something up, Aaron, somebody asked, it was referred to the Committee on the Judiciary and Committee on the Judiciary, which is Jerry Nadler. Everybody remembers Nadler, right? And then it's referred to the Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security 11 days ago. So I don't know how much they're meeting up in D.C., but at least it was referred to a committee recently.
Well, when the whole world's lost its by God mind, these are the types of things they might be turning to and saying, well, in this time of national crisis, we can't have people walking around with firearms. We just can't have it. We can't have it. This bill would do exactly that. Creates a national gun registry, requires you to have a national permit to get a firearm. It bans virtually every semi-automatic firearm. There's a federal magazine ban over 10 rounds capacity. Oh, I didn't even forget to mention a national red flag gun confiscation bill built right into it. Taxes each one of these are massive, seismic, huge issues. Taxes guns at 30%. You've been saving $1,000 to buy that AR-15, $1,300 right off the bat. Ammo tax at 50% increase going forward. It bans every American under 21 from buying any firearm. So sure, you can fight and die for our country. You can staff a FEMA medical tent for us, but you can't buy your own firearm.
I mean, just pause there for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody realize what that is? That means that a generation from now, nobody has any freaking guns.
Yeah.
Means if you're under 21 years old, I mean, or maybe that's not the section you've gotten to yet. Is that, I don't know if you've read that section yet, but it literally bans new people from buying guns. If you don't already have a gun, you can't buy a gun. It's in there. It's in the bill, but maybe that's not what you were talking about right
that
there.
part I don't have on the sheet that I made here.
Maybe I jumped the gun.
So dig into that. But this one
I will.
bans suppressors, done, gone, requires safe storage laws. The New Yorkers know what this means. In New York right now, it's a criminal offense if your firearms are not secured, unloaded, separate from the ammo, and locked up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is a crime to have a firearm next to your bed at night when you sleep. This should become part of national law under this crap. You've got expanded gun-free zones to a bunch more areas. It just goes on and on and on. It's the worst gun control bill that we've ever seen at the national level, as far as I know. And you guys have got to take time to fire off an email telling your congressman, telling your senator, you expect them.
Hit the links. Hit the links hard. They're pinned at the bottom or top of all of the comment sections of everything, all the platforms that we're broadcasting. They want to destroy this freaking country. Look what's happening right here, right now, with this freaking crocked up disease. They come in with this kind of stuff. They want to drive us into Venezuela in record amounts of time. We need to wake up and start hammering on these people relentlessly, day in and day out. Heck, you're all quarantined anyway. Sit there and hammer on your legislators because, folks, this stuff is ratcheting up very, very quickly.
And like Chris, and like Aaron or Chris just said a second ago, it's
federal, Dylan. Sorry, it's federal. Keep going. It's federal bill, guys, not state level. Federal. You all have to send your emails on this.
I mean, so again, the link works everywhere. So if you know any Americans anywhere in America who care about the Second Amendment, they can use that link, and it will automatically send an email to whoever their U.S. senator and congressman is. So send it to everybody that you know. Because like Aaron was just saying right there, during a time of crisis, or maybe it's Chris who said that, during a time of crisis, anything can go. Anything goes. Anything goes. Where once you thought you had some staunch Republican, fighter for the Second Amendment, they basically don't exist, but whatever. Where once you thought these people would stand very clearly for your Second Amendment rights, all of a sudden they're going, well, it's emergency time. Pressure's hot. We got to vote for something like this. Anything can happen during a time like this. People will vote for crap that you never even imagined because, hey, it's crisis mode. It's crisis mode. Send the email. It takes one click.
You're watching in like Wyoming or Iowa or Missouri or New York or so. I'm posting links right now in the comment section in real time. So that is the link. It takes a couple seconds. You guys are probably all familiar now with all of our state groups using this very easy to use program, guys. This is an automated process. You don't have to look up your congressional person's email address or look up any kind of contact info. You don't have to write the email yourself, even though we all have time because we're all under quarantine because we have to defeat this virus that's killed 200 people. Marcy says, give me the bill number and email address and name for this thing. So, Marcy, that's the whole thing here. You don't have to have any of that. It's all right here. Just hit the link, and it will go right to your congressional and senatorial people anyway. Yeah. So it's an automated process. So the bill number is HR 5717. Does someone have the Senate number? I'm trying to. It's Elizabeth Warren is the
3254. 3254.
Yeah. Okay, 3254. So, but you guys, you don't. That is all an automated process, Marcy. Just fire off the email. You punch in your name, and it goes immediately to your legislators, your politicians in D.C. It's an automated process.
I was talking with somebody earlier this morning about everything that's going on, both this gun control and the unilateral executive decisions that Mike DeWine is making in Ohio and that Tom Wolf is making in Pennsylvania. And we were talking about what would the founding fathers do? I guess we could do like a WWJD version of that. But what would the founding fathers do? And I said, well, it's quite simple. I know what Sam Adams would be doing. He'd be building a great big giant bonfire right now. And he'd be getting a great big giant pot of tar on to boil, to get hot, to get warmed up, because the types of stuff, I mean, when you put this in a context of what our founding fathers did for that very small amount of the tea tax, that they were so opposed to when they jumped on that ship and chucked it all into Boston Harbor. You put that into comparison to what they're doing right here, and I think there's real examples we could go back and look to with what the British governor in Boston was doing versus what the Ohio governor, Republican governor, is doing right now, or the Democrat governor in Pennsylvania. And we're long past the point where our founding fathers who built this country, we're long past the point where they started to take action. The benefit that we still have right now is that we still have this system of government that we can still utilize to try to affect the outcome here. And so if anybody's being frank and honest about the situation, our founding fathers would have been picking up their guns already. They would have been tarring and feathering some of these politicians, these dirty, skeevy politicians who are doing these things. But we need to get to work here.
I mean, some of these people, like most people watch, are wonderful people. I see so many people over here, Nathan and Rosa and Scott and Wesley, so many great people. But some of these people watching these videos, I've been the one sitting here for the last number of years going, from my cold dead hands.
Yeah.
And the moment a freaking virus comes to America, it's, you know what? Here you go. I don't need that. From my cold dead hands, it was all a little, that rhetoric was just a little too far. It's like, you give it up for that? For an illness? For an illness? You give away your freedom for an illness? From my cold dead hands? Was it all just big talk? Was it all just big talk? Because that's what it looks like from our perspective over here. Because the moment the government said jump, some of you said, how high?
Well, we'll jump a couple feet for maybe $1,200, But forget the fact that my neighbor had to shut down his small business over there and it just totally destroyed his life. But maybe if enough of us to get $1,000 check from the government, man, this apocalypse thing ain't so bad. Yeah. Suspending the Constitution ain't so bad. Forget about my kids and my grandkids and my posterity and my integrity. I'll just sign off for $1,000 and let's let the Constitution flush down the drain.
But it's my ammo money, Chris. It's my ammo money. It's like that. It's that classic picture of George Washington standing there in front of the Continental Congress. And he's got his finger up, and they put a little thought bubble or a word bubble above him, and it says, "But none of this counts if people are getting sick."
None of this counts if 300 people across the country get the flu, or 5,000, which they had much bigger, much more deadly plagues and sicknesses that came through colonial America than what we're talking about here. No. George Washington he'd be leading an army against stuff like this.
The fact of the matter, guys, is you don't give your rights up for anything. Not for illness, not for war, not because the government says so, not because society says so. You fight for those every time, every place, no matter the circumstances.
Yep.
I mean, there's literally nothing that can happen in reality that should make Americans go, suspend that Constitution, suspend that Bill of Rights, suspend it all because we got this thing over here. Nothing.
And we actually have an example in American history where that was attempted. Believe it or not, Abe Lincoln tried to suspend the constitutional rights of people, and he tried to arrest countless Northerners who were, opposed to what he was saying. He was trying to arrest all of the political dissent in the North, and the United States Supreme Court unanimously ruled against him and said you cannot suspend people's constitutional rights. And to be clear, our Constitution survived and was used in a time when Americans were literally shooting at each other with guns, killing hundreds of thousands of people. And we didn't suspend our Constitution then. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously against doing so. But if it can make it through then, when hundreds of thousands of Americans are dying, I think it can handle 4, 5, 6, 1,000 deaths in the United States from a virus.
I mean, the opposite. I mean, there is no solution in suspending our freedom. There is no solution in sticking the Constitution in a paper shredder. There's nothing better outside of that. The grass is not greener on the other side because government said, stay in your houses, give up your rights, and we're gonna lock you all down. There's nothing better. I mean, because if you believe there's something better on the other side of the Constitution, then you should have given it up a long time ago. You don't believe in the Constitution. You don't believe in our American system. Like, you believe that the Constitution is a document that doesn't help us, and that there should be another system of government set up. If you believe that now, if you think it's okay to do that now, then it was okay to do it 6 months ago, and it's okay to do 6 months from now.
Right. Great point, Ben. I like that.
Well, it's just, I mean, it's our founding document. It's what makes America America. It's what makes us Americans. It's what puts our rights on paper. It's what lays it out. It's what our founding fathers put together. I mean, if we're not going to follow that, then we're not America. We're not Americans. The Constitution does not rule the land. And what are we all doing this for? Oh, because 250 people got sick and died in America. Suspend it all.
And for those of you who don't know this yet, or didn't read this anywhere, but the Ohio governor, we had, I think there was like 12 cases of the sickness. No people had died. Currently, we only have had 3 people die, but he literally suspended our primary election here in Ohio and pushed it off for another date because of this thing. I mean, the right to vote. I mean, it's even the radical left agrees on this. This is it's what they all hold up as the shining beacon of the American experience. Our governor was allowed to just completely destroy that in the blink of an eye because of this perceived threat. And so the Ohioans are asking this questions. My gosh, if he can do it for this, can he do it again for a snowstorm? Can he do it? Okay. In Ohio, or actually, I don't know the stats on this, but a certain number of people die from gunshot wounds in Ohio every day. I forget what the exact number is, but can Mike DeWine, who is committed to the anti-gun ideals, can he suspend our Second Amendment freedoms, our Second Amendment rights? We have a right to vote. We have a right to protect ourselves. Can he suspend that because a certain number of people in Ohio die every year due to gunshot wounds? Where do you draw the line once that barrier has been crossed?
I'll take a second here, guys, to read. Go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to break that up, but a bunch of new members coming in, guys. I checked with Aaron on chat. There's a second. We got by the hundreds of emails are pouring in right now on the Capitol Hill. It's buzzing somebody's email, keeping them aware of this legislation. We got new members. Richard in Canton, Ohio is in. We have Diane in Kent, Ohio is in. James in South St. Paul, Minnesota. Kevin in Conneaut, Ohio. Teresa in Salem, Ohio, coming in strong. Matthew in Wentzville, Missouri. I'm just reading some of these. Caledonia, Ohio. Jesse. Mike, St. Joseph, Missouri. Adam, Missouri. Wow, coming in strong. Montrose, Minnesota. There's David. Then Roger in St. Joseph, Missouri. We got some other folks. Gail in Washington. Join up, guys, at joinafc.org. Sign your petition.
Because Missouri fought this kind of war before.
Yeah, that's true. Sign your petition that's attached, your email that goes directly into the United States Capitol to your congressmen and your senators, telling them to oppose House H.R. 5717, and the Senate bill is 3254. And we'll have a website up later today, guys, and we'll probably all post that around on all of our pages and on the American Firearms Coalition page as well, that you can sign your email, send it in. How long does that take? I know all of us did it right before he came on the show here. Less than 60 seconds, right?
Do what?
It took me less than 15 seconds.
Less than 15 seconds to get your emails pounded into your senators and congressmen. Okay,
Well,
good.
for all the folks who already do emails through all these state organizations, you guys all know this. But once you do one email one time, your address auto populates. So all you have to do is open the email and push send, and it could take you about 5 seconds to do that.
Right.
Once you
if you've done it before, it's one click. It's
right.
one
Literally
click.
one click.
You
One
push the
click
button.
politics.
Did want to do a shout out to Greg Pruitt and the guys in Idaho. Greg couldn't make it today, but yesterday, no, 2 days ago in Idaho, Greg, I've been out to Idaho a lot, doing training classes out there for ISAA, for all the gun guys out there. Excuse me. Had a lot of other conservative activists out there. And a lot of these people out there, they look at Greg and they don't like him anymore because he's mean and he plays for keeps and he's a hard ass. And I just want to do a huge shout out to Greg Pruitt and the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. They just put a bill on the governor's desk yesterday, which will take constitutional carry, which is already law in the state for residents. And now it's going to expand to every law-abiding American. So anybody who is in Idaho,
Nice.
legally allowed to own firearms, can now carry them with no need to have a government permission slip, not just if you're a resident, but anybody who is in that state at that time. So all the rest of these organizations that I know of that have helped train out in Idaho have fallen apart and access-based bunch of butt-kissing fools who are attacking Greg left, right, and center. Through it all, Greg did what he always does. He put his head down. He's beating the hell out of politicians. And he's massively growing this incredible organization. So if you're watching tonight from Idaho, if you're not yet a member of this organization, you need to get off your couch and take action on that today. They have passed constitutional carry round 1 in 2016, constitutional carry round 2 in 2020. They have passed a pretty dang good stand your ground law bill last year, which they still want to improve. But Greg keeps delivering results for gun owners. They keep destroying incumbents' careers, which is even more satisfying to Greg. The AG came after him, didn't stop him. All these power brokers came after him, didn't stop him. These fake news, fake conservative Facebook pages are trying to attack him in real time right now. Didn't stop him, and he is getting it done. So a big shout out to Greg and all the folks who've been fighting so hard in Idaho. Session, I think it's over. Sunny die last night. So that bill is on the governor's desk. So if you're in Idaho, Greg is doing email programs. You should be signing those emails to Governor. Is it Otter? I think it's Butch Otter still.
Butch Otter.
I'm telling him to sign this, but I want to make sure we didn't forget to mention that because most of these states are shut down. Iowa is shut down for 30 days. Missouri is shut down for 2 weeks. Wyoming is adjourned for the year. Minnesota shut down for a while.
I don't know how gun owners in Ohio or in Iowa feel right now because I don't go there very much anymore. But gun owners in Ohio love seeing wins. Gun owners in Pennsylvania love to see a state like Idaho shining like a beacon from a long ways away, shining light over the rest of the gun owner community across this beautiful country of ours. We love it when other gun owners in other places are winning. We want to win too. We're fighting hard to do it. But guys like Greg Pruitt and the merry band of brothers that are behind him out there in Ohio, they give us all hope.
Idaho.
And we love it. Makes us feel great.
I guess I was wrong. It's not Butch Otter anymore. I guess I haven't paid attention of it's Brad Little, but it's the same difference. So keep it up to all the guys out there in Idaho. And yeah, I just want to mention that before we forgot and close this video down. So
love it.
Sign your emails, guys. Send them in. Join up. Tons of y'all are coming in. Too many for me to even read off here. So
awesome.
we'll be back next week, right, guys? Probably early next week. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of developments just like day after day after day. And we're getting, all of us can speak to it. We're getting pounded with emails and calls from folks like, what the hell are we supposed to do? What are you doing? Well, the reality is that most of us here think kind of alike, and we think that most of this is a bunch of bull crap. So,
not worth destroying our country over, not worth destroying our economy over, not worth destroying our children's heritage our children's rights and our grandchildren's rights. It's just not worth it. It's absolutely not worth it. So
Right.
Holly says our Constitution made it through world wars without we made it through world wars without shutting America
Civil
down.
wars,
We
world
worked
wars.
harder and didn't sit at home for any time then. What the heck is wrong with us? Mainstream media and idiots in government.
Yes.
Norman says, here they are saying exactly what I have been warning about for the last few days. Our government is using communistic methodology to train U.S. citizens to be sheep. Wake up, America. Wake up.
Yes.
Wake up.
Yes, this is exactly why I always tell you. I say this on Ohio videos and Pennsylvania videos all the time now. I say, watch what your kids are being taught when they are in school, because a lot of times that's where the poison enters into the bloodstream. It's in our schools. Watch what your kids are being taught. Take your kids out. Teach your grandkids about American history. I mean, the war is on right now.
Well, they don't teach that in schools anymore.
No,
they
I
teach
know.
you to
So you
hate
gotta
our
make
founding
sure.
fathers. They teach our kids to hate the Constitution.
That's racist.
They teach the kids to obey the government at all costs.
Xenophobe.
They teach them all of these things that is never what our founding fathers taught their children. The founding fathers taught all of our ancestors history and personal responsibility and the rights of the individual and what our duty is to our American society, not to be lemmings, not to be little foot soldiers for the state, but to be free. And they don't teach that in schools anymore. I have so many friends who say my daughter wore her American Firearms Coalition T-shirt to school the other day, and she got suspended for doing so, just because it had a gun and said American Firearms Coalition on it. They are punishing children who are being taught to love their country, to love their freedom, to love their Constitution, their founding documents. That's what's being taught in schools now, and that's why you see so many kids standing up there going, vote for Bernie Sanders, vote for Bernie Sanders. Right. We love socialism. We love a free paycheck. You know, we think that we shouldn't have to have jobs and we shouldn't have to work. Take our guns, give us money, and we'll be happy to live in the basements forever. Oh, it drives me nuts.
I mean, we're a gun rights organization, but we're so much more than that, because right now, you know, people in America have to stand up and fight at all levels. And so just echoing what Ben said, I mean, you better give serious consideration, folks, to the possibility of being able to find some way to homeschool your children and think about some way to get them off of the socialist dribble that's being force fed to them every day. It's not your children's fault that they can't stand up against what is being fed to them 6-7 hours a day. You can't expect them to
run right now while all the schools are closed down.
I think you're going to see a lot of that.
A test run.
I think you're going to see a lot of that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So right now, when you're kind of having to de facto do it anyway, you got to realize there's so many options out there now that are online for parents. You don't have to do all the work by yourself, but you got to be thinking about. And people have been saying since we were children, since we were young children, or well beyond that. Well, I'm going to leave them in there to help. You know, be salt and light. That is gone. That is gone. There is no more intellectual debates. There's no more iron sharpening iron. It is 100 miles an hour socialism all day, every day, nonstop. And if we believe that our children can be in that environment nonstop from the time they're 5 years old till the time they're out of college, they're going to emerge a strong person who loves their country, loves their freedom, loves the history of this great country, and is going to do their part to make sure that their grandchildren enjoy those freedoms, we're delusional. So.
Yep. All right. So the last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to peace out here, but while the schools are shut down, take your kids and piss off a liberal, piss them off big time. While the schools are closed down, grab your kids, grab your grandkids, head out to the back 40 and teach them how to shoot guns. That would be a great life skill for them. Teach them that guns are great tools to use against tyrants, against thugs, against criminals. teach them how to shoot guns while the schools are closed, and you'll accomplish more for liberty and freedom than you could possibly imagine. So my suggestion anyway.
I love it. I love the idea. But hammer out that email, guys. Do that right away. It takes no time at all. It takes no time at all. I mean, didn't you say, Patrick, there's already hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails?
Almost 1,000 people in the last half hour have already fired off their email.
It's going to grow.
Light them up.
Light them up. What would that be then? That'd be 1,000 people filled it out.
3,000 emails.
That'd be 3,000 emails have already gone into Congress, have already gone into Washington since we started this video an hour ago. 3,000 emails.
Let's get 300,000
into DC. Absolutely. So, like I said, take that link, just like we put it in there, copy that, go onto your Facebook chat, do a little start chat, drop it in there, and press send, 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 send. And you can sit there and send that link to hundreds of your Facebook friends with just one clicky. And we can get that 3,000 will become 30,000, will become 300,000. Just send that link to everybody. They have to be an American. They have to live in America.
Yeah.
But click. It doesn't work in the Wuhan province.
Right.
Over there, they're going, we wish we had guns in China. But fire that off and we can turn that into massive numbers. It works for everybody. Beth says, can you repeat the email instructions? Just tuned in. Just click the link. It's extremely easy. You just punch your information in there for the very first time. If you've done it before, it does it automatically. But you click on that link. It's in the description of every video. For everybody who's watching this, it's probably in the comments section, but it's definitely on the top of the video. Click on that link. Punch in your information, and the system will automatically send a pre-written email to your U.S. Senator and to your Congressperson telling them to oppose H.R. 5717, the gun control mega bill in Congress. So do that, and then tomorrow when you wake up and you're still stuck in your house, do it again.
Do it again.
And then when you wake up the next day, do it again. Save the link and use it.
Well, we're gonna probably wrap it up here. There's so many things we could sit here and talk about. We could talk about how the Chinese government solved all of their problems in Hong Kong by manufacturing this crisis. We could talk about the potential. There's a potential rally that some entity is organizing in front of the State House on Tuesday here in Ohio.
Wow.
Addressing these very issues. And for those of you in Ohio who are very concerned that that's probably not the right thing to do, don't worry. Amy Acton, the Ohio Health Department director who suspended our elections and destroyed our Constitution in Ohio, she has given everybody the right. She's told everybody you have permission to assemble in front of the Ohio State House, so you don't have to worry about making anybody mad. She's told us.
Thanks, government.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Thank you, Amy, for leaving some of our rights intact. But we could talk about a lot of things, but send those emails. That's the most important thing right now. So that's all I've got from Ohio and Pennsylvania.
All right, guys, check back later. Maybe on all our websites, we're going to have a link. I think it's, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 things. Basically, it'll be defeathr5717.com. We'll have that up a little bit later, and we're going to post it on all of our pages and pass it around to everyone you know. Get them pounding the Congress with the emails. Join up with the American Firearms Coalition at joinafc.org. Yeah, exactly, Chris. Sorry about that. Joinafc.org. Nobody will remember what I said anyways, but yeah, right, exactly. If that's the case, we'll have to do something else. But anyways.
All right.
Have a great time. Stay safe, everyone, for the zombie apocalypse. Military is going to be walking all over your streets here soon, right? And all this good stuff.
Great. Great.
I love an upbeat message, Patrick.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Take care.
Talk to you guys later. Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.